Cincinnati Open suddenly felt like Alex Eala's own territory. Thousands of Filipino fans filled the stands, flags waving and chants echoing throughout the stadium, creating an atmosphere that felt more like a home crowd than a regular tennis event. But the real surprise was just how much attention was centered on one player. Fans were paying huge resale prices just to watch Alex Eala, and the tournament seemed to have one question on everyone's mind. When is Alex playing? Then came the showdown with Amanda Anisimova, a former world number 3 and 2-time Grand Slam finalist. On paper, Anisimova had the experience and firepower, but Alex Eala had something equally dangerous: confidence. The opening set turned into a marathon battle, with one game alone stretching through endless pressure and multiple break chances. Yet Alex refused to panic. She kept saving crucial points, stayed aggressive when it mattered, and eventually broke Anisimova late in the set before closing it out 6-4. The stadium exploded. Filipino flags shot into the air, fans screamed, and suddenly it felt like something historic was happening. But Anisimova wasn't finished. She fought back in the second set, found her opening, and forced the match into a deciding third. Now everything came down to a handful of points. Alex Eala came out firing, immediately taking control and moving ahead early. The crowd was roaring again, convinced she was about to pull off another huge upset. But then the match took a turn nobody inside that stadium wanted to see, and the next few games would completely change the story. The third set looked like it was slipping completely into Alex Eala's hands. She came out with incredible energy, held her opening serve, then broke Anisimova immediately to move ahead 2-0. The crowd was exploding again, and for a moment, everything pointed toward another massive victory over a top 10 opponent. Alex had already shown she could handle the biggest names in tennis, and now she was only a few games away from doing it again on one of Cincinnati's biggest stages. Then came the turning point. In the fifth game, Alex reached 40-15 and had two huge opportunities to extend her advantage. But instead of closing it out, she suddenly lost 4 straight points. Anisimova escaped, found her rhythm, and the momentum shifted almost instantly. From there, the American became increasingly aggressive, attacking Alex's serve and forcing her into uncomfortable positions. 6 of the final 7 games went Anisimova's way, and the match that had looked so promising for Alex suddenly ended 6-4, 2-6, 6-2. The result was heartbreaking because Alex had been so close. But what happened after the final point may have been even more revealing than the score itself. As Alex walked away, the massive Filipino crowd that had filled the stadium all week suddenly went quiet. Flags were slowly folded, fans began leaving, and the atmosphere completely changed. Then Anisimova reached the microphone, and instead of simply celebrating her victory, she openly acknowledged something that had been impossible to ignore all night. This crowd had come to see Alex Eala, and what she said next made the moment even more meaningful. What Anisimova said after the match gave the night an entirely different meaning. Standing at the winner's microphone, she could have simply talked about her own performance, but instead, she immediately recognized the incredible support surrounding Alex Eala. She admitted that the crowd had been heavily behind Alex and praised her as a great player and an incredible fighter. That acknowledgement mattered because this wasn't coming from a commentator or a fan. It was coming from the player who had just survived one of the toughest matches of her tournament. Anisimova understood exactly what Alex had created inside that stadium. For an opponent ranked among the world's best, walking into a packed arena dominated by thousands of Filipino supporters is a completely different kind of pressure. Every big point Alex won was met with an eruption, while every mistake from Anisimova seemed to make the atmosphere even louder. Yet she managed to stay composed and eventually turn the match around. Her comments also highlighted something bigger happening around Alex Eala. Her popularity is no longer limited to the Philippines or a small group of dedicated tennis fans. Her supporters are traveling, buying tickets, filling practice sessions, waving flags, and turning ordinary tournament matches into major events. That kind of following can completely change the atmosphere around a tournament. Cincinnati had experienced the Alex Eala effect firsthand, and when she was eliminated, the contrast was impossible to miss. The stadium that had been alive for days suddenly felt strangely quiet. But while the emotional impact was obvious, there was another side to this story that tournament organizers couldn't ignore. the commercial impact. Alex wasn't just bringing noise into the building. She was bringing attention, ticket demand, merchandise sales, and an audience that wanted to be there specifically because she was playing. And that raised a much bigger question. What happens to a tournament when one young player becomes such a massive attraction that her elimination changes the entire atmosphere? That question became even more interesting when you look at what Alex had already done across the North American hardcourt swing. But the biggest story may not have been the loss at all. It was what Alex Eala had already built before walking onto that Cincinnati court. At just 21 years old, she had gone from being a promising Filipino talent to a player capable of challenging some of the biggest names in women's tennis. Her run through the North American hardcourt season showed that the Cincinnati crowd wasn't simply caught up in a temporary wave of excitement. There was real momentum behind her. In Washington, Alex captured her first WTA title and defeated world number 3 Jessica Pegula in the final, proving that she could handle the pressure of a championship match. Then came more major tests against elite competition, and Alex continued showing that her success wasn't based on one lucky tournament or one unexpected upset. She had already taken down multiple top 10 opponents, and every victory seemed to make her fan base even more determined to follow her wherever she played. That is what made the Cincinnati loss so painful. Alex had been within touching distance of another huge victory, but instead of collapsing after the defeat, she left with something arguably more valuable. Another experience against one of the strongest players in the world. The match showed that she could stay competitive deep into a 3-set battle, even when the pressure became enormous. And now the attention shifts toward New York. The US Open is approaching, and Alex Eala is entering it with far more confidence, experience, and expectations than she had before. She is no longer simply the young player people are excited to discover. She is becoming a genuine threat that top opponents have to prepare for. The Filipino support will follow her, the pressure will increase, and every match will bring another opportunity to prove that she belongs among the elite. Cincinnati may have gone quiet after her elimination, but Alex Ayala's journey is nowhere near finished. If anything, this heartbreaking loss could become the moment that pushes her into an even bigger chapter of her career. She came within a few games of defeating another top-level opponent, experienced the pressure of a packed stadium, and showed once again that she can compete when the spotlight is at its brightest. Now, every tournament brings more expectations, more attention, and tougher opponents who already know exactly what Alex is capable of. The Cincinnati loss may have ended one unforgettable night, but it cannot erase everything she accomplished before it. She has already proven that she can beat elite players, win on major stages, and carry an enormous amount of support without letting the pressure completely overwhelm her. And that makes what comes next even more interesting. When Alex Eala steps onto another major court, fans won't simply be watching a young player trying to make a name for herself. They'll be watching someone who has already shown the world that she belongs in the conversation. The question is no longer whether Alex can compete with the best. Now it's how far she can go when everything comes together at the right moment. Cincinnati may have gone quiet when Alex walked away, but her story is still getting louder. And with another major opportunity waiting ahead, the next chapter could be the one that turns all this momentum into something truly unforgettable.